The discussion of good player etiquette has been around since the dawn of time. With so many new players joining our hobby, it's important to educate those individuals on how they can leave a good, lasting impression on the people that they play with. Obviously, not everyone is highly sociable or charismatic, but to be a good player, the requirements are really the bare minimum. In today's video, we're going to cover what those requirements are and the things that you should consider when playing in someone's game. Hey guys, I'm Loki, and welcome back to the Lair. The first thing I'm going to cover today is timekeeping. When it comes to playing games, it's important that you arrive on time. Be ready and prepared for whatever system your Dungeon Master is going to be running for you today. Arriving late or not having your character sheet or dice or any other equipment not ready just slows down the game for everybody else. And considering that most games run for 3 or 4 hours, 15 to 30 minutes might not seem like a long time, but it kind of is, Next up is understanding the game. Knowing how to play your character, what features and or spells they have and how they work is very, very important, and it seems to be something that many of us have probably done wrong in the past. Some of my players who've been playing with me for 2+ years still don't remember to read or understand all of their spells. It's definitely not the Dungeon Master's job to know everything for you. And whilst yes, we can look up certain stats or items or anything else for you and tell you how it works, we shouldn't really have to. That's kind of your job as a player. We're going to run the game, you run your characters. The next thing is always be ready. Make sure that you know what you're going to do on your turn before it actually is your turn. Combat takes time in most TTRPGs, and each player has more than enough time to consider the types of actions that they would like to perform. And I think whilst it's good to discuss tactics and strategy at the table, it's important to not slow down the flow of the game too much, because it causes everybody to it slows everything down to a halt, and people get bored and distracted. And especially for people who are kind of neurodivergent, people are going to be really, just getting distracted looking at their phone, and people are going to fall out of the flow. A lot of spellcasters obviously have this issue, and you really shouldn't. Read your spells ahead of time and consider what you're going to do before you act. I think that's really as simple as that. Share the spotlight is the next thing, and it's easy for some players to want to crave the spotlight, but it's so important that you share it if you want to be a good player. If you're a confident speaker who loves role-playing or interacting with the world, it actually might be worth directing questions at other players in or out of character and actually getting them more involved in the session. This is especially useful when you're playing with newer players, and it really helps the Dungeon Master out when players are being self-aware. I think that's really my favourite kind of player, the player who kind of acts almost like a co-DM and is kind of helping me run the game by kind of involving other players, almost like an NPC guide, kind of leading the players through the adventure. It's very, very good. Respect and kindness is the next one. Make sure you always listen and respect your Dungeon Master and fellow players. I know it's really the bare minimum, but tensions can get pretty high in this hobby, and sometimes there are going to be things that you're going to need to discuss at the table, especially if there was like a poor ruling or a questionable call from the Dungeon Master or another player. Getting loud or rude or angry isn't going to really help anybody. Instead, it's actually just going to escalate the problem and make it a whole lot worse usually. It's important to always remember that we're playing a game and we're supposed to be having fun. If you feel like you're getting angry or somebody else is getting angry, it's not a bad shout to walk away, take a break, and come back to it when you're feeling a little bit less stressed. Good sportsmanship. Yeah, I've seen a lot of bad etiquette surrounding character death and quite a few other things, but we'll talk about character death. If your character dies, it's okay for you to be sad. It's okay to be sad and express that sadness at the table, but there's definitely some nuance to this where it's not really appropriate to sit and whine and complain or make snide remarks about how if a certain thing happened differently, or if another player had used this action, you would still be alive. And I think that's kind of the whole point, right? If things were done differently, or the dice were kinder, you would still be alive. But this is a game of chance and luck, and unfortunately luck just wasn't on your side today. The other thing is blaming the Dungeon Master. Death does happen sometimes in our hobby, and the best thing you can do is pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and make an even cooler character next time. Maybe your Dungeon Master will even work with you to integrate that character better, maybe even start you off with some cool gear, who knows. What other things should players consider when joining a game? Join the discussion in the comment section below. And thanks for watching today, guys. I'll see you next time on Loki's Lair. Until then.